Good afternoon at this ZyLAB webinar, a productivity revolution for FOIA and public disclosure requests. I would like to introduce you to the speakers Jeffrey Wolff and Jan Scholtes. But first, I would like to check if you all can hear me. Can you please answer in the questions if you can hear me? Okay, I see a yes. So I would like to introduce you to today's speakers, Johannes Scholtes, CSO at ZyLAB, and also Professor of Text Mining, University of Maastricht, and Jeffrey Wolff, eDiscovery Director at ZyLAB from Washington, D.C.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, Jeffrey.
Okay, you want us to start, Robert?
Yes, you can start.
Okay, good. Sorry, yeah, didn't got that. Okay, welcome everybody at this webinar where we're discussing how you can reach a productivity revolution with ZyLAB in FOIA. We're very happy that you're here today. First, we want to talk a little bit about the terminology that's used in FOIA. Then we'll want to point you to a number of process similarities between public disclosure and eDiscovery. And then we're going to explain why automation is needed. And after that, Jeffrey will show you some examples of how our software works. And then we'll take it to a couple of customer profiles and then wrap up with a couple of conclusions and some more information. If you have questions, you can ask them during the process, or if they're applicable, we'll try to answer them. And you can also save them to the end, and we can also pick up a couple of additional questions to the end. All of this will take an hour. So what are we talking about? We're talking about public records requests, FOIA, sunshine laws, all kind of other regulations where the government has to disclose information to the general public based on some kind of request. Like I said, there's a lot of different rules. There's the so-called sunshine laws, named after the 1976 federal government in the Sunshine Act, where there were a lot of new regulations requiring the government to open up their archives. And this is also used as an umbrella term for state and federal laws making records available to the public. There's the 1966 Freedom of Information Act, which is also used as in its abbreviation FOIA. And then there's more than 50 different states having public records laws, which are also changed or used or in all kind of variations by a lot of the cities, counties, and other organizations who are funded by government authorities. Now, the public disclosure process here is explained in this infograph, where you can ask certain things from the government at a certain moment in time. The process is where you submit a request to an agency for certain records. The agency then has to search for responsive records. The records are then reviewed before they are disclosed, and the reviewing is particularly for redactions and withholdings and exceptions, which is kind of a difference with eDiscovery, where a litigation where mostly documents are reviewed for relevance or responsiveness and not responsiveness. And then the data that has to be withheld in order to protect the agency or the interests of the agency, or make sure that the persons at the agency and the agency is not damaged, can then be either withheld or redacted. You have to provide a report of all the documents that you withhold, and then you disclose them to the requester in a open file format like PDF, which could be searchable or not searchable, depending on how you want to do it. Now, there's a increasing overlap between FOIA and the federal rules of civil procedure. The main reason is that there has been a number of jurisdictions where there has been verdicts which also refer to FOIA and to eDiscovery processes. The fundamental goal of both the FOIA and the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure used for eDiscovery is the same. It's about truth finding, and common sense dictates us that parties incorporate and that they use the discovery rules in the course of FOIA litigation, which was in one of the opinions of Judge C.R. Schindlin, who was also a very important eDiscovery judge. The federal government must include metadata in FOIA productions, and attorneys should meet in comfort throughout the process and make sure that they agree to the form in which responsive documents are ultimately produced. Now, these texts all are very similar, and that is, of course, because this is one of the reasons why we see this overlap, and this is also why more and more agencies are using eDiscovery technology in the FOIA process. Where are the similarities? What you see here is the EDRM, the Electronic Discovery Reference Model, which is the standard model which we've been using for the last 10 years in the eDiscovery market. There's some kind of repository somewhere where you apply information governance principles, which is, of course, record retention and all the best practices there. Then there is the identification, which in eDiscovery is done through a legal hold notice. In FOIA, it's done by identifying the departments or identifying the custodians, or by just doing a plain search through the entire organization. So you're going to search who has data on this particular topic. Then the data has to be collected and preserved. It has to be processed and make sure every piece is searchable, so you can apply automatic technology. You have to review it, analyze it, and then at a certain moment you do a production. Now, these processes in eDiscovery are named in the colorful blobs there. In the blue ones, the search, the review, disclosure. This is typically how it's being named in the FOIA process. There's a couple of issues related to the whole process. The speed and completeness of the disclosure is very important. You have to do it all within a certain time limit, kind of depending on whether you have to deal with city, state, county, or federal regulations. There's a lot of differences there. You have to satisfy both the government responsibilities with respect to protecting, for instance, the employees of a government, or protect the interests of the government, but also the rights of the requester. And you have to withhold records that meet exception, confidentiality, or personal information criteria. Again, these exception and exemption rules are different for different legislations. You have to maintain transparency, so if you don't provide all of the records, you have to defend why you withhold certain exceptions in the court of public opinion, and you have to defend the disclosure in the court as well. Now, the number of requests is growing. Here you see just an overview of the number of FOIA requests. But what's growing even faster are all of the local and state requests. I found this information on the website from the University of Iowa, who have provided this information, and it shows that the number of requests is actually really very rapidly growing. You can almost see an exponential growth there. The response time is short. They provide 75% within 10 days, another 16% within 11 to 20 days, and 10% takes more than 20 business days. And there's all different categories, and there's all different affiliations of the requesters, which could be reporters, could be different vendors, or other individuals. So it's really increasing. Now, the challenges are related to a number of aspects. One of the challenges is related to the increasing volume, of course, the number, the size, the breadth of the requests, and documents mentioning all, like term X, Y, and Z across all of the data sources. This is really a big problem. And not only is the volume of data increasing, but also the volume of requests is increasing. There's a lot of complex data, paper, If you haven't scanned it in, it's a problem. Blueprints, architectural blueprints in particular. A lot of FOIA requests have to deal with different maps and different area maps, unstructured, structured data like audio, video, social media. Then within the government, data is often distributed by department, by geography, on-premises, cloud data, Office 365, you name it. There's high cost related to it, personnel manually searching, processing, reviewing, disclosing, printing. You have short timelines. Often, most responses you are required within 20 days. And there's a lot of new regulations for privacy and data protection, which add an additional complexity to redact personal identifiable information or protected health informations. Now, what we see is that there's a lot of variations in exceptions, exemptions and deadlines. One of the documents that you do not have to disclose under certain regulations are drafts. So what is the definition of a draft? When you need to disclose drafts? What are the different definitions of personal identifiable information or protected health information? How do you handle litigation documents? Like I said, different deadlines for responding, different cost structures, if there's any cost that is requested, different redaction rules, and different disclosure formats and methods. Now, why do you need to automate? Now, there's a number of reasons why you need to automate. First of all, there's just too much data, and regardless of how brilliant your search query is, you're going to get too many hits. No relevance ranking scheme works best. One of the problems with traditional search technology is that Boolean searches either result in way too many hits, which we call a feast, or you get like too few hits, which we can refer to as a feminine. And you're always going to have, you're never going to have with Boolean queries like the perfect number of hits. So what we see a lot is that agencies take the safe way or the safe route, and what they do is they just define a very broad query, which typically results in 2 or 3 or 4 times too many hits, which they're then going to review for relevancy, and which will cost them even more delays and more cost. We also see one of the problems is that you never know what you get or what you miss, because you never know if you actually found anything. And this is where techniques from machine learning can actually help us to kind of more or less make sure that you know that you found most of the documents that are relevant, and you can provide an indication, if needed, in court of how well the recall was of your request. In many other applications, we see that there are many languages. Now, in FOIA, of course, this is not the case. But we do see a lot of government agencies that also have to deal with language documents in Spanish or in sometimes even some of the other languages. A lot of spelling variations, so you don't know how to define your query, you don't know exactly what words to look for. There are more and more non-textual formats like audio files or video files. Data is spread in many geographical locations, and all of this, has, at least in eDiscovery, caused a huge revolution, making us use of all kinds of intelligent techniques from data science and artificial intelligence. So what do? We use intelligent search. We have search technology, which is our own search technology at ZyLab, which allows us to use a variety of very, very advanced search tools that are also that are allowing you to kind of both increase your recall and your precision. They're very fast. They also allow you to deal with incomplete information, even if you don't know how to spell something, or you have like certain names that originate from different alphabets or different spellings. We are very good in finding these type of names. Why? Well, we've been in the business of law enforcement, intelligence, regulatory agencies, and eDiscovery for a very long time, and this has always been one of the benefits of our technology. We intelligently analyze the document content. We can identify and extract relevant information. So we do a semantic analysis of documents. We find individual names, company names, and more than 100 other different type of semantical classes. Then we can use all of this for machine learning to build classifiers that find more responsive documents. We have embedded automatic translation, machine translation, which you can use if you need it. And we can also automatically identify and redact sensitive information or replace names by pseudonyms. And this is a major benefit of our technology in eDiscovery. So I would like to give it over to Jeffrey now, who is going to give you a little bit more insight in the types of automation we're talking about to improve the whole process of FOIA. Jeff?
Thanks, Jan. I'm going to spend a little time talking about the ZyLAB technology around FOIA requests and public records disclosure requests. And what you're looking at right now is really a kind of a summary of some of the high-level functionality that we bring to this process through our ability to deeply process your content, analyze that content, and then to accelerate the review, the manual review of that content so that you can get through what you need and only produce out what is not exempt within your state or municipality statute. So you can see there's quite a bit of functionality here, the ability to support a wide variety of formats of documents, including compressed or compound documents such as PST files or zip files, the ability to OCR any content that is not natively searchable, and we'll talk a little bit more about media and audio content as well. But then when we present that to you, the ability to show it in a means that you can consume it easily. So that means conversation threaded for emails, automatic classification of content where we can pre-tag things before, during the processing phase before a reviewer actually even has to look at it. The ability to, Jan already talked about entity extraction, and we'll delve a little bit more into that and the clustering of topics through topic modeling. The ability to have a sophisticated tagging system. So if you have a small group of reviewers who are looking for exempt content, that they can easily get to that content and quickly tag it appropriately. Or if you have a large review group, the ability to batch out your documents in such a way that you can keep track of who has what documents and how far you are into the review process. And then, of course, once you're done, the ability to redact content that needs to be withheld, and finally produce it out in a format that is acceptable to your requesters or to the other agencies you might have to provide that data to. So how does ZyLAB technology help you do that? Well, ZyLAB has a solution that allows you to provide this, the platform in a number of different deployment models. First and foremost, it's a matter of where your content resides, regardless of whether it's on-premise within your organization or if the content resides in the cloud through things like Office 365. ZyLAB is able to get at that content, and then regardless of where you put our technology, we can be deployed within your organization on-premise again, or in a private cloud such as Microsoft Azure or Amazon Web Services. We also have a multi-tenant software as a service model where you can actually just push the content that you need to review up to our environment, have it processed, make it available for review, and then export it back so that you can provide it to your requesters in one of several different methods, and I'll talk more about that in a little bit. Here you can see a workflow that typically our customers would use to address a public records disclosure, and it takes into account a kind of workflow management system built around an open source technology like Alfresco that allows you to have the public get into your environment through a portal to request the data that they're looking for in the first place. That can be through a web form or an online database, and track the status of that request. The ZyLAB system then integrates to that and collects up the relevant data from the various either departments or county agencies that might be involved. It processes that data, it deduplicates that data, and does a number of intelligent analysis of those documents to make them available for the review environment. You can actually use the ZyLAB environment to create a first report out of what's been collected, what's been deduped, what's been pre-tagged, and then you can use that to distribute the workflow to whoever is going to be manually reviewing the content for exemptions, possible exemptions. Part of that is the ability to analyze content for PII, personal identifiable information, and extract out that information that you don't need to produce. That can be then QA'd by your team within the ZyLab environment. You can use the ZyLab environment to allow outside counsel in, or your attorney general for your state or municipality to go in and make a final decision on any data that has to be potentially exempted. And then, of course, you can produce the content out into a format like a searchable PDF that can be provided to the requestor to respond. There we go. ZyLab allows you to collect up from a wide variety of content locations. So regardless of where you have your content stored now, whether that's on file shares within your organization, whether it's primarily it's going to be email, so whether it's an Exchange on-premise or in Office 365, it can also be pulled from SharePoint content. It can be even pulled from Google Suite applications, so G Suite applications. Even if you have internal database applications within your organization, we have the ability to collect content from those disparate locations, index it together, and make it available into one searchable matter where you can then review the data from multiple systems in one location. So that data can be data can be concatenated from multiple systems to allow you to easily get at it and review it for content. Here you can see a screenshot of the upload functionality. This is a part of our multi-tenant software as a service environment. So here, you wouldn't need the ZyLab infrastructure. You can simply upload your content that you've collected from the various agencies, upload it into a single matter. It will be processed automatically behind the scenes and then made available in the review interface for you to work on. Part of the enhancement that ZyLab brings to the table is the ability to deduplicate content. And so this, of course, is going to be important because it reduces the amount of time that you need to spend looking at the documents. If you're collecting up emails, you might collect the same emails from multiple custodians who received a copy of the message, and you don't want to have to review that more than once. ZyLab allows you to automatically dedupe that content by a number of different methods. So we can, of course, dedupe it by custodian. Within the matter, we can dedupe also by different elements, different parts of the document. So, for example, we can change the deduplication hash of the metadata field. So if you're looking for content that is just keyed on email of to and from, date, and subject, we will hash those values and then go ahead and compare the emails and only give you one to look at. The other duplicates will, of course, be tagged in the system according to however the specified method that you want, and then you can produce out accordingly, making sure that you haven't lost any of the data. Also, in addition to talking about exact duplicates, we also have the ability to look at near duplicates. So when you're reviewing content within your environment, you can always, from the interface, you can run a near duplication search, and that will show you other documents that are within the same matter that are similar but not exact matches to the document you're currently looking at. And in fact, our technology will actually provide you with a ranking that is based on our algorithms of identifying the differences between the two documents. Here you can see an example of our search results screen. This would allow you to do, after you've done your initial processing of data, you can actually output a collection report that will show you all of the documents that have been collected into this matter, this newly created matter. You can either run it from an all document standpoint, or you can also filter it by keywords. So if there are keywords that you want to filter on, then you can run your collection report. This can actually be outputted via CSV or an Excel format, so that you can share it with other users who may not have access to the ZyLab system, and then you can use that to break up the amount of work you're doing. This can also be used to feed the batch review tool. So what that means is if you have a team of 5 or 6 reviewers and you wanted to assign groups of documents based on metadata or a particular keyword within the documents, you can do that through the ZyLab system, and it will maintain the batch system, and it will keep track of who has what documents, keeping email families together, of course, but it will also then provide you with updated statistics of who's gotten through their batches. And if someone finishes a batch and there's more documents still remaining, it will then continue automatically to assign new documents to those users. Part of the automation that ZyLab brings to the table is around the automatic classification of documents. So why is that important? Well, this allows you to define in advance of a matter processing the kinds of information that you want extracted or pre-tagged. So for example, if you're automatically looking for phone numbers or social security numbers or email addresses of certain people, these rules can be pre-established in ZyLab, and then when the data is processed in for any matter, it can be automatically tagged for you so that you don't have to do manual searches after the fact. So I can have a search that will automatically identify and redact a social security number, or automatically identify a list of police officers' names and automatically redact them within my matters. So I don't have to do that that work manually. ZyLab provides you with a faceted view of your content. This is what we refer to as data visualization or faceted browsing. So you can see here the facets on the screen represent some of the information that we're providing you about the data in this matter. So for example, they can be very simple, like the data owner, where did the data come from, or the source, the type of data, whether it's an email message or a file. But it can also get much more sophisticated using our analytics to identify, here's a potential exemption. Here are documents that have potential exemptions in them because the content in the document matches certain rules that we've pre-created in that auto classification I showed you previously. These are customizable facets, so from on a matter-by-matter basis, you can look at different facets depending on the type of content or the type of matter it is. If it's not necessarily a public disclosure request, but maybe an internal investigation within your state or county municipality, you can actually have different facets available of the types of data you want to see. And this allows you to browse through your content very quickly and get just to the documents that you need without even having to perform a search. The ZyLab interface is built on an HTML5 responsive design approach. What that means is that it's going to work on any browser, whether that's on a Windows machine or a Mac, but it also works very nicely on tablet computers as well. So you can take the data offline if you need to, copy it down, but you can also view it wherever you have an internet connection if you're using our software as a service product. Here you can see an example of a search results screen. This allows you to select column by column the types of data you want to see, and you can very easily switch views and change the sets of columns that you need to see for any search result within any particular matter that you're looking at. ZyLab has a number of tools around the searching. Searching is kind of the core of our solution, and we're very proud of the fact that we've built our own search index and search engine. We don't plug in someone else's tool. So we've built our product from the ground up. And that allows us to have a functionality around search that a lot of the competitors in the space don't actually provide. Your basic search types of structured and unstructured data will be around Boolean searches using and or not statements, wildcard searches for keywords, but you can also do things like provide fuzzy searches where you can look for a document that might have a specific word misspelled up to 2 characters, or a quorum search like you can see on the screen in that medical condition example where I'm looking for any document that has 3 or more of the following words that might appear in the document, where one reference to the word disease might not be enough, but multiple references to the word disease might cause this to be a document that I have to exempt because of HIPAA regulation. You can do a number range searching where you're looking for not just the number 15,000 in a document, but any document that has a number between 15 and 16,000. And ZyLab makes it easy for you to build complex queries, as you can see from the bottom box there. Most of the selection method is through click interface, where you can actually select the field you're looking for and the value that you want without having to learn a complex query language. ZyLab helps you automate the tagging decisions that you have to make. So you can see the doc review screen here. There's quite a lot of information in addition to the actual document presented to you. You have, in the case of an email message like the one you're looking at, you have threaded conversation up in the top left. You also have a view of the document family. So if that email has attachments, you can see that not only what those attachments were, but you can click to those attachments very easily. This document this email had a zip attachment, so that had to be opened up automatically by ZyLab, but the contents inside it are what I care about, so I can quickly get to that Excel file in this case, or the PDF that's attached. I have all of the metadata properties of the document, and then I have my tags, which again are customizable over on the right, and I can use those tags to quickly get through my review work. I kind of mentioned this before, but the ability to redact content automatically and allows me to very quickly get through what I'm looking for. So in this case, I've searched for documents that have social security numbers. You can see that an example of the fact that we use the regular expressions to do that. Again, not something that a lot of search engines have, but the ability to do pattern matching. So not just social security numbers, but anything where you can define a particular pattern, whether that's a state ID number, a phone number, a credit card number, etc. And the system is not only able to pre-tag that content, but also automatically redact it if you choose. You can do the same thing with your exemption codes. So if you can look for content that is automatically exempt no matter what the case is, and apply your exemption codes to it. We use a very powerful OCR engine, one of the best, if not the best in the industry, to allow us to get access to content that is not natively searchable. So if you upload content to our system or collect content within your on-premise environment that is PDF or image-based and it's not natively searchable, it will go automatically through an OCR engine, which will then convert it and through optical character recognition and allow us to get the extracted text out. That way, our search engine is able to fully index those documents regardless of what the original format was. That OCR engine can actually do a single direction OCR pass, or in many cases, it can actually, as you see in the example on screen, do a multi-direction pass, where not only are we going to catch content that is in standard 0-degree portrait orientation mode, but we're also going to catch, as you can see on the right side of this image, there's a fax header. The word account is actually found both in the portrait view and in the 90-degree OCR angle of the fax header. So we were able to catch that text regardless of the direction it's in. This is going to be really useful for things like construction blueprints or CAD drawings or real estate plats, etc., where you have content that might not reside in the standard orientation. ZyLab also has a tightly integrated audio search functionality using phonetic searching. So if you have media content like call center calls, police body cams often come up. We talk to state and local municipalities. Voicemail messages are a good one too. Anything like that where there's spoken text, spoken speech in the content, that can be extracted and phonetically made searchable. So you can search on the same phrases and have it come up in the environment like this. This, in fact, is a session recording of a county commissioner's office. So the board is meeting there, and this was the recorded session, and they were able to search for phrases in that session just by typing it into the ZyLab search engine. One of the other things we provide, if it's necessary, for non-English documents, we have about 120 languages that we support for mostly bidirectional translation through machine translation. So you can actually search in English against the translated text, or you can actually search, if you have a native speaker, you can search in the original language in the software, and it will bring up the document for you. I'll ask Jan now to talk a little bit more about our assisted review functionality and topic modeling.
Thank you, Jeff. Yeah, this is our latest and greatest, which we added only recently to our product, and this is now available in our SaaS environment. What we did is that we took the latest technology from machine learning and clustering and concept search, and we added it to our platform. What you see here is a automatically created topic model of a set of documents. So in our system, we can take a select set of documents. Then what we do is we're going to look for the most dominant topics which are discussed in those documents, and for each of these topics, we're going to represent in this structure the most dominant words that are used in those topics. And then we display it in this word wheel, which is fully dynamic. You can click on each of these entries, and then if you click, for instance, on the yellow ones, they will automatically pop up, and you can zoom in and see more detail. It also builds a hierarchical structure. So we automatically cluster the hierarchy and represent that as well. And then as a user, if you have not really an idea of what's in the collection, you can run this clustering first, and then the system will present you this view, and you can say, okay, this is what I'm interested in, and you can select any of these features of any of these areas. What we can then do is that we can use our machine learning, which will take the most dominant documents in those clusters, or if you don't want to use the clustering, you can also use full text search. Or if you say, well, I'll rather start with a validation set, then you take a number of relevant documents for a particular responsive reason, and then you show them to the the system. The system will build a classifier. The system will then return the documents which are most likely to be similar to the original documents. So documents that are classified by the classifier into that category are then returned. The best ones first. They're reviewed by the reviewer again. And after as soon as the number of positive documents for a particular responsive reason has doubled, or you have a significant number of new documents, in the background we can build a new classifier. The classifier will be better. You can actually see these graphs here at the bottom, where you see that the left graph is the number of relevant documents that we return. The middle graph is the precision of the return set, and the graph on the right is a 11 points precision recall and precision graph. And the more this graph is to the top right of the graph, the better the results are of the classifier, and the better the results, the more you can depend that the classification is done correctly. Now, what we can do is we can do that a couple of times, and what you see here is a simulation of a data set that we automatically classified. Now, this is the data set from Reuters, RCV1, which is a 800,000 document data set. And in these documents there are different categories for sports, for war, civil war, politics, foreign policy, financial services, etc. And what we did here in the orange line, we actually teach the system how to recognize documents related to sports. Just all sports. And you can see that this line goes straight up. Each dot is a training cycle. And in total there are about 35,000 relevant documents in this archive on sports. And we only have to review 32,000 to find 90% of that collection. That is like 20 times faster than if we would have to do a full manual review of the document set. Now you see the other blue line, which is the topic war and civil war, which is a little bit harder to recognize because it uses different words, less distinctive words than the sports category does. And you see that the slope of the line is slowly decreasing as we reach like 80–90% recall. And so the system will find it a little bit harder, but still, also in this case, there are about 46,000 relevant documents, and in order to find 90% of those, we only need to review 45,000 documents, which is again a productivity increase of 20 times compared to a manual review. Now, if you are interested, because this technology originates from technology-assisted review, predictive coding from the eDiscovery industry. We see that a lot of our clients are using this to boost the recall for search, just general search, because one of the benefits of this technology is that the user does not need to understand complex query languages. The user can just present relevant documents to the system. The system then builds a classifier, and it automatically searches in the background, and it automatically finds other relevant documents. Documents are then presented to the user. Is this relevant? Yes, no, yes, no. And in this process, we see that after a couple of iterations, the system already has a very high recall and precision. If you teach it with 50 or 100 documents, you see you have a very good classifier finding relevant documents for you. But what we also do in the background, we measure the precision and recall of the system. And by measuring this, we can also provide the user an indication of a reliable indication of the percentage of relevant documents that they found. And this is something you never know when you define a Boolean query. You never know how good your search has been. You never know whether you found 20% or 80%. Now, with this technology, we can actually reliably measure by using these techniques from machine learning, which are scientifically fully justified, but which are also referred to in a federal case law related to eDiscovery. And yeah, this will be a very, you can at least indicate, well, you know, we think we found 70 or 80%. And you know, understand me well, 80% is already very, very good. 80% is typically the level at which human beings operate. If you have more than 80% precision and recall, you probably have to deal with a computer. And this is also shown over and over again in scientific research that these computer algorithms are actually capable of finding 90–95%, and they are consistently outperforming and beating human reviewers and human searchers. Now, a lot of other case scientific research and tests show that many times users only find 20 or 30 or 40%, even if they think that they found 80%. So if you want to make sure that doesn't happen in your agency, you should definitely look at this technology. Okay, Jeff, I'll give it back to you, finding privileged information.
Sure. So this is an example of a query that would allow you to, in this case, you can see that the query is full of domain names that belong to law firms. So this example is actually allows you to build a query that can automatically look for content that that is attorney-client privileged. And so it's just an example of how you could build queries in ZyLab that automate your ability to find important content very quickly.
And the reason why we show this here is that this is one of the things that we cannot do with the machine learning. With machine learning, right, we cannot find privileged information. This is typically something you need to do by searching either the exemptions or the privileged reasons in the text, or if the information is in the metadata, like in this case, the sender domain or the receiver domain, then it's much easier to do it in this way. And by combining the TAR, the technology-assisted review, and our traditional full-text search and the metadata search, you will have the highest possible quality of finding documents you can withhold.
Exactly. And so a combination of that assisted review, that AI, along with rules-based searching or classification, allows you to get to that maximum recall. Along with that, you're going to have the ability to, on the next slide there it is. As we talked about redactions, we've typically find that redaction in the case of FOIA requests or public disclosure requests is really the most critical piece. So you know that you can't exempt the entire document, so you have to just redact the important information, and that can often be 20 to 25% of your entire workload. ZyLab, of course, allows you to manually redact content within when you're reviewing on a doc-by-doc basis, but more important to that is the ability to automate that redaction. So if you do have the same keywords that need to be redacted, or if the same patterns, as I touched on earlier, that you can do that seamlessly, very quickly, and then move on to the other functions of the matter associated with it.
Yeah, here we also see that human beings make a lot of errors doing redactions, because obviously it's very boring work, and in a lot of tests we've seen that computers are capable of reaching very high levels of quality, high in the 90, even 95 or 99% quality range, where humans are performing really much lower. And here too, by using this automation, we see productivity gains of, like, even if you have to review documents and check it for quality, make sure that you're not disclosing anything accidentally. We see productivity gains of 10 to 20 times on average, like 15 times less costly than if you do it completely manually.
Absolutely, and you can see on the screen right now. These are some basic withholding reasons or redaction reasons within the U.S. Freedom of Information Act. Of course, on a state-by-state level, even there are different exemptions allowed for public disclosure requests, and that would vary depending on where you're coming from. But the nice thing is ZyLab can be customized through code sets to have your specific state or county exemption codes built into the system for automatic analysis as well as for manual redaction tagging. We do support within the interface. We do support the ability to export your redactions log. When we're talking about FOIA, we talk about the Vaughan index from the case of Vaughan versus Rosen, but at the state and local level, we just typically have an exemptions report where you have to state the reason why you either exempt or withheld an entire document, or the reason you redacted a particular document. ZyLab makes it very easy to automate the creation of that report, so that you don't have to do double work. Once you actually tag your redaction, whether that's in an automated fashion or by the system or by a manual redaction, you're providing the reason code in there, and then ZyLab will output that for each document, even if there are multiple redactions within the same document. I jumped one too many slides there. And of course, once you've finished your work product, your redactions and exemptions within the environment, you then need to export that data from the ZyLab environment. We make that very simple with an automated wizard that you walk through to do your bulk disclosures, your exports. They can be in a variety of formats. We actually have the National Archives as one of our customers. I'll touch on in a little bit, and so you're able to export your documents both in image format with TIFF, single or multi-page TIFF, as well as PDF. You can also export the native file, and of course the extracted text of any of your documents. Load files represent the metadata, whereas the document is exported separately. So if you also need to provide a metadata report, you can, and that's something that can be automated right out of ZyLab as well. And then if you need to share your documents with the public, obviously the export can be created into a searchable PDF, and that can be mailed to the requester. But if you also want to share the content with the public to head off future requests and reduce the number of requests you get, you can actually host that on a ZyLab web server. That can be deployed within your data center. That doesn't have to be something we host, where you can actually share those documents automatically with some of the metadata from the load file, and that can be made available. And the example you see here is the EPA has done that with some of their content.
Well, and you also get our search engine with it, so you have this very, very powerful search engine, which is very capable of searching in very long disclosures, even if you have documents of 50 or 100 pages. We do hit highlighting, and what we see is that because you provide the search engine with the public with the data, with also a very good search engine, people will actually be able to find what they're looking for. So it will actually also lower the number of disclosure requests that you get, or you can refer the people to, like, okay, this has already been disclosed before, and also your own internal in-house people can use this to see, okay, is this information somewhere in our database? Have we disclosed it before? If so, just send a link to the document to the requester, and you don't have to do double work.
Absolutely. Just a couple of our customer case studies in the public record space that we'd like to touch on, without actually talking about who the customer is, and then Jan will wrap it up and we'll take any questions. But we have a West Coast city that is using our technology. You can see they receive a lot of public records requests, over 18,000 per year. They also use the tool to do internal investigations, which I mentioned. You can use the eDiscovery product for a number of different use cases, so it comes in very handy. A lot of our organizations who purchase the technology for public records disclosure also use it internally. They have fairly large cases. As you can see, the average case is about 40 to 100 gigs of content. Most of it is going to be email, but they also have loose office documents and video files, and they do their disclosures and output their disclosures in PDF. They're using the system right now quite successfully. can see on the next slide here, it really cuts down the amount of time that they have to spend on each of their requests, which is the reason they purchased it in the first place. So really a response time, a reduction of 2/3. It also, the deduplication functionality significantly reduces the amount of documents they have to go through, because we are identifying documents as dupes. They know for sure that they don't have to go review that document multiple times. It also streamlines that workflow within the department that's managing the request. So not just from the IT standpoint of collecting up the data, but also between the reviewers, between the actual lit support people who have to look at the documents and the attorneys or the AG that might have to finally review it before it's produced out. Our other case study here is a county government who uses our technology, and the reason we wanted to share this one is that they actually have all of their content as well as their ZyLab deployment in the cloud. So they use Office 365 for their productivity platform, for Exchange and SharePoint and OneDrive, and they use Azure, the Microsoft Azure platform, which is where Office 365 actually resides. It is also where the ZyLab platform resides. So the content is located in the same place as the collection and discovery piece, which again makes life a whole lot easier from an infrastructure standpoint, because this reduces their IT infrastructure costs as well as the hardware that needs to be maintained. It's also more secure because the data is not leaving the Azure cloud. But it also allows them to increase, if they have a large case or a large number of cases that they would not normally get, they're able to increase their processing capability quite easily because it is an elastic type of architecture within a virtual cloud. You can see a couple of quotes on the screen, but I will focus on the bottom one. As I mentioned, National Archives does use our technology to index the emails from the Office of the President after each administration. So that is one of our federal use cases, and you can tell that it would take them a much longer time to be able to turn over documents without the ZyLab technology in place. And with that, I'll ask Jan to kind of wrap things up for us.
Yeah, so what we see is that the benefit of our technology for FOIA and handling public records requests is the easy integration with different open source and third-party case management tools. So if you have these tools running on your website, we can integrate with it, and we can do the hard data-driven data science redaction part, and you can use whatever other tool you want to handle the workflow and the progress of the request. We can collect directly and across different sources like mailboxes, Office 365, file shares, SharePoint, and all kind of other electronic repositories, even paper collections, and very quickly help you to identify potentially relevant documents. We can automatically classify these collected documents per department, per document type, custodian, withholding reasons, or whatever other category you need to optimize your in-house workflow. We do automatic redaction, which will save you a lot of effort and will make your employees very happy. They no longer have to do this boring work. We allow you to review documents very quickly. We have a lot of review accelerators, making the review process very, very efficient. If you are looking at using our machine learning, you can even provide estimates of how well the number of documents that you found, how high the precision and recall is, and you can help your users to search and find relevant documents even if they don't know what to look for, if they don't know the right keywords, or if they don't know how to build complex queries. And then at the end you can share all of the disclosures with a very user-friendly and powerful search engine to the public, which will help you to limit the number of new requests. Now, if you want to find out more, you can sign up for our community. We have this new community which contains a lot of information, a lot of knowledge base items, resources, and you can also share, you can look at the experience or ask questions to several of our users. Now for this, the content of this webinar, we have also created an ebook. If you are interested, you can download it, and this will provide you an overview, or if you would like to have a hands-on one-on-one demo for the people in your organization, please contact us and we'd be more than happy to make an arrangement and help you. You can find more information on ZyLab.com. Any questions, Robert?
I will check. Thanks for the interesting presentation, John and Jeffrey. Yes, there's one question. Michael, please type in your question. If you have any questions, you can enter it in the question box.
No, no questions?
No, I think he's typing the question.
Okay.
Maybe you can go back to the slide with the address of downloading the ebook. Yes, the question is here. The question is, if I want to do an eDiscovery search, but not look at the emails or the content of the emails, and then have the results emailed, is that possible?
Yes, we can do a search, and we can then you can skip the review part and go immediately to the production. Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
But then you have to be very careful, because you want to make sure that you don't disclose any information which will harm your agency. So you always have to do some kind of review to make sure that the withholding and the auto redactions are done automatically. I hope this answers the question. Okay.
Yes, thank you. I got. I don't see any other questions.
Okay.
So,
right. Thank you all for your time today.
Yeah, thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you again at one of our next webinars. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bye.